The Wild Horses of Delft, a colonial legacy. In 1498, the Portuguese arrived in Tamil lands, bringing with them Chile, which had been introduced to Europe by Columbus in 1494. Along with Chile, they captured the small islets surrounding the Gulf of Mannar to control the thriving pearl fishing industry. Historians believe this occurred between 1499 and 1501. These islets were part of the northern Tamil kingdom of Yalpanam, which the Portuguese called Jaffna due to pronunciation difficulties, a name that remains today. Jaffna, located on the mainland, fell to the Portuguese in 1616. These historical details explain how Tamil words entered the English language through Portuguese in the 16th century. Referring to Tamil curry simply as Indian overlooks this fact, as the concept of India as a unified nation only emerged in the 19th century. Curry cannot be fully understood without considering the intertwined histories of British Ceylon and British India. Among the islets, the Portuguese named two of particular significance as Cais, Pierre, and Ilha das Vacas, Island of the Cows. In 1640, the Dutch replaced the Portuguese and renamed these islets Cates and Delft, respectively. In fact, Dutch influence can still be seen, as they even named a village in the Cates islet Leiden. Cates, Delft and Leiden were all named after towns in the Netherlands. The Portuguese, and later the Dutch, fortified these islets to secure their hold on the lucrative pearl trade. The Pentagon-shaped fort in Jaffna, first Portuguese and later expanded by the Dutch and British. Forts were built on Mannar, Delft and Cates, with the Dutch fort in Cates uniquely constructed in the middle of the sea. A sentinel of the sea, a Dutch-era Fort Hammenheel. A glimpse into the past. Ruins of Delft Island's colonial heritage. Portuguese and Dutch fortifications on Delft Island. The silent witnesses. The ruins of Cates Island's colonial era. Arabian horses in Tamil literature. A historical perspective. A 9th century Tamil saint and poet, Manikavasakar, authored Thiruvasagam, a revered collection of hymns dedicated to Lord Shiva. Manikavasakar served as a minister to the Pandya king Arimarthana Pandian, who reigned in the late 9th century, and resided in Madurai, the capital of the Pandya kingdom, which remains vibrant to this day. The king once entrusted Manikavasakar with funds to go to the harbour and purchase Arabian horses from a newly arrived ship. According to legend, however, Manikavasakar experienced a spiritual awakening on his journey and spent all the money on causes dedicated to Lord Shiva and authored Thiruvasagam, a devotional hymn. While the story centers on the poet's devotion, it also provides historical evidence of Arab horse traders operating in the Tamil region in the 9th century. The hymn Thiruvasagam is still widely used. When the Portuguese arrived centuries later, they began to take control of various established trades in the region, including horse breeding, a field in which they were highly skilled. Delft Island and the business of horse breeding. Before European arrival, Arab traders had already been bringing Arabian horses to the Tamil lands, selling them to various kingdoms and principalities in the Indian subcontinent and Ceylon. The Arabs not only traded horses, but also monopolized the spice trade, particularly in the medieval era before the Portuguese arrived. When the Portuguese came to the region, they began taking over many of these trades, including horse breeding, which was highly advanced in Europe. The wild horses on Ilha das Vacas, later renamed Delft, the Portuguese established a horse breeding business. They brought horses from Europe and built a massive stable to house them. The business thrived, and horses from Delft were used by the colonial forces and also exported to Ceylon, the Indian subcontinent, and far-flung countries in the Far East and Africa. Alongside this, the Tamil Portuguese curry powder, a new culinary innovation of the post-Chile era, was also exported from these Portuguese colonies. The Dutch, who took over in the 17th century, continued the trade. The British, who replaced the Dutch in 1796, also maintained it. However, by the end of the 19th century, modern transportation, trains and motorized vehicles had begun to replace horses. As a result, the horse breeding business declined, and the British eventually abandoned it entirely. Forgotten remnants of a bygone era, a ruined stable. Every pillar of this ruined stable has a magnificent story to tell. A story of horses, heritage, and a forgotten era of colonial injustice and human ingratitude. The once thriving stables were left to decay, and the horses were chased away into the wild to fend for themselves. Local authorities state that a British official named Nolan oversaw the final stages of the stable's operation before its eventual abandonment. To protect the uniqueness of wild horses to the Delft island, the authorities has implemented a ban on removing horses from the island. The legacy of the horses today. These wild horses, descendants of the Portuguese, Dutch and British colonial eras, still roam the arid landscape of Delft. The islet, with its tropical climate of wet and dry seasons, presents significant challenges for these animals. During the dry season, kind-hearted locals have built small tanks to provide water, which the horses share with cattle. However, the horses must rely on nature to provide food, and in a land with scarce resources, they compete with cattle for grass. Delft Island's population, which once numbered over 25,000 before the Civil War, has dwindled to less than 5,000 today. As a result, there is less food production, and the horses struggle to survive. Their numbers have declined from over 1,000 to around 300, largely due to the lack of food and care. These horses have become entirely wild, avoiding human contact and running at the sight of people. They are in many ways the last wild horses of their kind in the world, a living relic of a bygone colonial era. Delft Island, a historic site in Sri Lanka, once boasted two prominent towers built during the British colonial era. The Queen's Tower, constructed during the reign of Queen Victoria, served as a trigonometric point and navigational aid for ships. The King's Tower, unfortunately, has only its basement remaining. Both towers stood as symbols of British colonial influence on the island, supporting the wild horses. The ancestors of these majestic horses once carried our ancestors, yet what they have received in return is neglect. This colonial legacy should not be one of abandonment. The horses of Delft are a living reminder of the complex histories that shaped this land. They deserve care and protection, not as remnants of the past, but as symbols of resilience. That's why, with every purchase of Tamil Portuguese curry powder, a portion of the proceeds will go towards supporting the welfare of these wild horses. Funds will help provide water, food, and necessary resources to ensure their survival. Where possible, we will work with local authorities and the village administrative body to ensure the horses receive the care they deserve. By purchasing world's first Tamil Portuguese curry powder, curry thul, you're not just tasting history, you're preserving it, helping these wild horses live on as a vital part of our shared legacy.
You gave up on me, but I'm still here fighting to survive.
Once valued for their utility, they were abandoned when no longer needed, a stark reminder of human ingratitude. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.